Syrian tanks have begun shelling the country's third biggest city, Homs, as security forces try to crush persistent pro-democracy demonstrations. At least a dozen people were killed when troops opened fire. Human rights groups say more than 600 people have now died since the unrest began in Syria 2 months ago, and thousands more have been arrested. Middle East correspondent Anne Barker reports.
Explosions and gunfire rocked the western city of Homs as Syrian forces intensified their crackdown against dissent. In recent days, troops and tanks have poured into Homs and other Syrian towns where anti-government protests have raged for weeks. Witnesses say snipers on rooftops opened fire. At least a dozen people were killed around the country, including an 8-year-old boy. Even those trying to help the wounded were forced to brave the gunfire. But in one city at least, the government crackdown appears to have worked. This is Daraa, where the protests first broke out in Syria in March and where scores of people have reportedly been killed in the weeks since.
Everything is normal. Conditions are normal.
The UN says it's still being denied access.
I'm disappointed that the UN humanitarian assessment team has not been granted access yet.
European nations will consider new sanctions on Syria to protest against the government's brutality.
Mr. President, the Syrian people will not bow to tanks. We say to the regime to change course and to change course now.
It's a similar story in Libya, where fighting continues in the key city of Misrata. Muammar Gaddafi's forces have repeatedly bombed and shelled the city and its port for weeks. But the rebels have had a surprise victory, forcing Gaddafi's troops back from the front line and capturing Misrata's airport. But as has been seen so often in this conflict, what the rebels win one day is lost the next. Anne Barker, ABC News.